Fortnite OG Season 1 is only about a week away, and this time, it's here to stay. Today, I'm here to answer if the addition of this permanent OG experience will actually save Fortnite's dwindling player count once and for all. And I think it could, but only if they do these 5 things, and we'll get to what those things are later in the video. But first, I want to compare this new OG mode to the original Chapter 1 OG season, and look at what was done right and wrong back then. As long as Epic doesn't change what people loved about that season and fixes the few problems it had, I think we're in for a good time. The 3 most obvious differences between them is that this OG mode is going to be permanent, start in Season 1, and it seems to be 100% accurate to the original Season 1. We'll talk about what exactly that means in a bit. First of all, the fact that this mode is permanent alongside Chapter 6 means that the overall player count is going to skyrocket and it won't drop off as quickly as it did after Fortnite OG. The absolute worst part about the OG season is that it ended too soon. And it seems like most other people feel the same way, just considering the player count graph. Having OG Fortnite as a permanent, constantly changing mode was a brilliant move by Epic. Even if you don't end up loving it, there's nothing to lose because Chapter 6 and Reload still exist. It's really a win-win for everyone, which I think is going to boost the player count quite a bit for a while. The next difference is that it starts in Season 1. If you thought the first OG season was nostalgic, then you better buckle in because this is the first time we're seeing the original Fortnite map in over 7 years. For context, that's older than a good chunk of this game's player base. Now, let's be real, not everyone is going to love Season 1 Fortnite. The map is emptier than even Chapter 2, there's almost no mobility, and there's only basic guns and heals. Don't get me wrong, I respect the simple days of old Fortnite, but I think looking past the nostalgia, this first season is going to be miserable for most players. Sorry, new gens. On the bright side though, we do get an entirely new battle pass and the current season will rotate every single month. By seasons 2 and 3, the gameplay picks up quite a bit, so if you're not a fan of season 1, stay open-minded because I guarantee by season 4, you'll start to understand the hype around Chapter 1. But again, season 1 is almost guaranteed to be a snooze fest for most players, especially if it ends up being a 1-to-1 copy of Fortnite at launch, which brings me to the last main difference between this and Fortnite OG. This is advertised to be extremely accurate to Chapter 1, which has some positives and some negatives. I'm sure it's hard for Epic to decide what should remain accurate and what they should tweak to make the experience better for the majority of players. If you ask an OG player, they'll probably want the old movement, animations, and GUI from Chapter 1, but I think the majority of players would prefer quality of life changes like sprinting and mantling. Personally, I would be fine either way, but it puts Epic in a tough position. Do they fully commit to the 1-to-1 recreation to appease the OGs, or do they implement quality of life changes to make the gameplay smoother to those who are used to said changes? I think either way, these are pretty minor details in the grand scheme of things, so let's talk about the positives of being accurate. I'm really happy that every season will be fully fleshed out to what it was, and will be given the time it deserves. With a 1-month deadline on the OG season, they had to cut some corners to make it all fit, which meant condensing and merging Seasons 7, 8, 9, and 10. Which was a shame because those were some of the best seasons of Chapter 1. Yes, even Season 10. I liked it, okay? Sue me.
It was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
For the first time, locations like Happy Hamlet, the Volcano, Neo Tilted, and Taco Town will return in their full forms. This will really elevate those seasons to their fullest potential, and I think even newer players will appreciate them. Granted, it'll be summer 2025 by the time they're here. But until then, we have Chapter 6 to hopefully enjoy. Now, all of this sounds great, right? Based on what we know, it seems like this mode is going to be a huge hit for old and new fans of the game, but I don't think it's a guaranteed success just yet. There are still a few things that Epic needs to do to ensure that this game mode lives up to the expectations of Chapter 1, which brings me to the list I mentioned at the beginning. To start things off, they need to make sure that this mode stays balanced, not just for builds, but for zero builds too. Sure, most people playing this mode will be playing builds, but they need to make sure they don't neglect zero builds players because they make up half the player base. Again, it seems like they're trying to recreate Chapter 1 as accurately as possible, but I don't think it would hurt to add bunkers to zero builds, considering how open some parts of the map are. On top of that, the general game balance needs to be on point. At the start of both Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 OG, the loot tables were way out of whack. Heals were impossible to find at the start of both seasons, and Remix had the opposite problem as OG, where purple and gold loot was way too common in Remix and way too rare in OG. I think poor game balance can be a major turnoff to some players because finding 5 purple pumps on the ground before finding a single mini is just insulting. But hopefully they'll learn from their mistakes and the loot situation won't be as bad this time. The next thing on the list is mid-season updates. Now I know we're getting a whole new season every month, so it may just sound like I'm spoiled for saying this, but a part of what made Chapter 1 special was the mid-season updates. I'm not just talking about adding a new gun to the loot pool every 2 weeks, I mean map changes, mini events, quests, the whole 9 yards. Sure, Season 5 was fun on its own, but part of what made people so invested in the game back then was witnessing the cube appear right in front of their eyes and spending weeks tracking it across the map as it destroyed buildings, placed runes on the ground, and eventually sank into Loot Lake, building up to Season 6. Early Chapter 1 seasons would honestly feel really stale if we didn't have something like that to look forward to. Another reason it's so necessary is that it contextualizes the events that lead up to the next season. If Epic wants newer players to experience Chapter 1 exactly how we did back then, they need to bring back the updates that shaped the experience for us. Otherwise, we'll just get 10 random, disconnected seasons, which would still be fun, but it would leave most players underwhelmed, and again, the player count won't stay consistently as high. This next point is possibly the most important, and it's one that you know I feel strongly against, and that is, Chapter 1 needs to have no bots. Now, I made a video not too long ago on this exact topic, so if you want to see my full discussion about bots, then go check out that video, when you're done watching this of course. But right now, I want to specifically talk about why bots need to be gone in the OG mode. Fortnite was obviously at its peak overall players in Chapter 1, and a big reason for that is that it really pioneered the Battle Royale genre. Chapter 1 was a time when people would play for days straight just to get a single win. The whole point was that it was a fight for survival between 100 players where only one could win. I understand that nowadays Fortnite has a much more casual player base and bots can help below average players experience wins from time to time. In the current climate of Fortnite, it wouldn't be fair to completely rip that away from the core game mode. But Fortnite OG is different. This mode will exist alongside Chapter 6 and Reload, which already have bots. I personally think Fortnite OG needs to bring back the competitive feel that Fortnite used to have, which means no bots and possibly no skill-based matchmaking. I want to be shaking and sweating when I reach top 5. That alone used to be an accomplishment. Think about how much fun it would be to have a mode where you can play against 99 random, real players. Every kill is a hard-fought victory. Every win means you beat the odds and outplayed 99 real people. That is a Fortnite experience I want the option to play. And I really don't think it would be that much of a risk for Epic. I mean, the target audience of this mode is the OG players who are used to that playstyle anyway. And even the players who don't like that competitiveness don't have to play it. They don't lose anything by not playing it because every other game mode still exists. If Epic is ever going to add a mode without bots, this is the time to do it, and I really hope they do. Okay, this next one might be a little harder to pull off, but I think it would elevate the experience to a whole nother level. For the return of Chapter 1, Epic needs to bring back LTMs. I don't even know why they decided to step away from LTMs in the first place, because they were one of the most fun things about Chapter 1. They don't even need to be super complicated, just give us the occasional high explosives, close encounters, blitz. But what would be really nice is the return of modes like Food Fight, The Getaway, and Air Royale. In my opinion, this is really what set Fortnite apart from other Battle Royales. To be fair, we have gotten a few LTMs in the past year, but there's really nothing like logging onto Fortnite every day to see what new modes there are to play. The running theory is that Fortnite stopped doing LTMs to promote creative maps, but I think they need to recognize that those are two entirely different mediums. People would much prefer an official game mode on the Battle Royale map over skibbity toilet box fights. One mode that I'd personally like to see return is Ground Game. It was a builds mode LTM, but your mats were capped at 70. I think this would be perfect for the OG mode because a lot of people would prefer to play builds, but don't have the skills to compete against an 8-year-old who learned how to build before learning to walk. But really, anything would be fine as long as it keeps the experience fresh and exciting for the duration of the season. And the last thing on the list is live events. This is a big ask, but hear me out. I'm sure they still have all the event files from Chapter 1, so why not replay them? Live events were yet another thing that made Chapter 1 incredibly special. Modern live events can have the best visuals, go on for 20 minutes, be fully voice acted with cutscenes and everything, but nothing will compare to Chapter 1's live events. The way they built up to the new season and created hype was unmatched. Back then, the storyline was linear and made sense, and live events helped bring it to life without having to rely on actual characters or superheroes. Anybody could log on to the game for the event and instantly understand what was happening and possibly get invested in the game by doing so. Seeing the robot in Season 9 harness the power of the 0 point to defeat the monster, only for that to have unintended consequences in Season 10, made the whole chapter feel like you were living through a movie. I would give anything to experience those events again, and I really hope that new players will get to experience the same hype that we did back then. I know it wouldn't be as simple as it seems, but I really do think it would be worth it to replay those events one more time. And that's it. That's what Epic needs to do to make OG Fortnite great. Honestly, I don't expect most of these things to happen, but it would be a lot cooler if they did. If you made it to the end of the video, smash a like, smash subscribe, and leave a comment saying what you think Fortnite needs to do for this mode. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.